3, 2. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's delightful. It's a real good beer.
It's delightful coffee.
What do you got there?
Coffee.
Sounds like you need a little, maybe.
Yeah. To be fair, I do.
Yeah, you're kind of a big star now. No puns allowed, by the way. Adam and Paige.
Yes. Hello, guys.
So a little.
If you're new here, this is usually how we do things.
Yeah, we just
roll into it. We just start.
So you are fresh out of. We don't talk college football on playoff rankings.
Yes.
But you're kind of a big deal. You were on a.
Thank you.
I'm going to make it sound old. So you were on a HBO Max college football
playoff
show.
Yes.
Which, spoiler alert, you and I are going to be doing together next week in New York.
I was so excited
to so much
talk
fun.
about this today. I was like, I'm excited to tell everybody that next week Kramer's coming with me and we're going to New York and we're doing a college football playoff reaction show on Max. It'll be in the BR app like the normal ones, but on Max, which is huge.
We may see a Jets game. We got to figure that out.
TBD.
Might see a Jets game. Would be great. But either way, congrats.
Thank
you. I guess we could start with college football playoff rankings. Now, I have a little mini rant.
I knew this was coming because I saw your Twitter.
Okay. All right. There's two elements to this rant. First and foremost, this ranking show by now, people can't help themselves by getting really worked up by a show that is there to sell ads and build ratings for the college football playoff, which is what it is there for. And we are all perfectly good with that. That is what this show's existence is about. It's about content. It allows us to fucking do this, which is great. We get to fly to New York, all that stuff. This is good. God bless the college football playoff ranking show. But what really is wild, and you and I did another show this week where we were predicting what our final college football playoff rankings would be, and then also talking about what we thought this week's rankings would be, and we were spot on. And what's crazy about that is the number of people who were outraged that Ohio State was number one. I don't think there's ever been, and I don't know, there probably has been, but this was an easy one for me that Ohio State should be number one now. And I can say that with me saying I don't think they're the best team in college football.
Yeah, well, and I think the concept of this is hard. I think after all these years, it's surprising that it's so hard to grasp for people that they give us the criteria they go off of. And I was talking to you before our other live show on Monday. I was saying, looking at the criteria the committee gives of what they're supposed to look at, Ohio State should be number one. That's just what makes sense. And it's the other part of this that I find fascinating is people would be so mad if we only got the Final Four at the very end. If we got these college football rankings at the very end of the year after Championship Saturday, people would be really pissed because they'd be like, what were you grading us on? What about this? What about that? And so I think to hold the committee accountable, there should be rankings every week because you're going to say, okay, you put Ohio State here for the resume purposes because of the two big ranked wins that they have, all of those things, and point differential, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that they're consistent with other teams in doing that as well. And strength of schedule obviously was a lot harder than Michigan's and Georgia's. So yeah, I think it's good that we have these rankings as a starting point for what the committee looks at. I even was talking about this yesterday on the show, is that in years past, there's certain criteria that they don't take as seriously, and head to head sometimes they don't. And we saw a perfect example of they took it seriously when it came to Washington and Oregon, because in my opinion, Oregon should have been over Washington. But we knew that head-to-head, obviously, Washington has the edge there. They took that pretty seriously. But then you have Oklahoma and Texas. You've got Alabama. You've got Penn State. You've got all these other things where, those things don't factor in. So it's very fascinating to me that there's certain things that they take into consideration and don't. So full circle rant on this point. I just think it's interesting that we are mad that we get rankings every single week, but I also think we need it. Otherwise, it would be very strange if we only had the one at the end, because I don't think we'd be able to. We'd just be more angry, I think.
The other part too, people are is it the best team or is it the most deserving? And it's a really stupid question. It's a really stupid question.
Yes.
Because if you're asking me, is it the best teams? Like, I'm going to, more times than not, I'm going to take teams out of the top 4, okay? And I'm going to put other teams in.
Yeah.
Like LSU, right now, I'm going to take over a lot of teams ranked in front of them. Even though they have 2 losses and their defense is chaotic, and we'll talk about LSU. But, like, why can't we have the conversation that Ohio State deserves to be number 1? I think Michigan is the best team. I could be wrong. That's what I think. Their schedule has been a fucking joke.
I think Oregon's the best team.
Oregon might be the best team. By the way, that's a great... You and I talked on the show, like, that is... They're really good, and they just lost. Like, we can mesh these two things together and have a reasonable conversation about it, in my eyes. Like, we can mesh these two thoughts together and come up with a ranking. But people cannot grasp this concept, or they choose not to.
And I think the other part is the Georgia factor of it all, of like, oh, Georgia is the best team in the country. Well, I don't know that they are. We haven't seen them play against anyone. So even if you're screw rankings criteria and what you've watched of them versus what you've watched of Michigan and what you watched of Oregon and where you watched of even Ohio State, like, I don't know. It feels a lot better. I'm leaving Florida State out of that because I don't think they're one of the best 4 teams in the country right now.
I love your continued shitty on Florida State. I just like it.
The ACC's hot garbage. They're going to lose to Louisville. I have a gut feeling that that's what's going to happen. And then the committee, because you know how the committee gets bailed out every year?
Oh, yeah. That is definitely a bailout.
That's going to be their bailout, is Florida State. Florida State will bail them out because the ACC is terrible.
Well, it's funny because I wrote for today about how the teams outside the top 4 get into the postseason. And it's such a fascinating discussion at this juncture because there's still a fair amount of games to be played. But when you look at these resumes, like Washington, if they win out, they're in. And I don't even know if Washington's going to win this week, by the way. Spoiler alert. But Alabama, if they win out, are they in? Probably, right? Like you could say, yeah, like, yes, Oregon, if they win out, are they in? Probably, right? Like, there's a lot of probablys in there. Texas and Oklahoma, a little tougher. And then the discussion gets very interesting, in my opinion, for like Missouri. Missouri wins out, are they in? Yeah, I think so. I don't think we're taking that thought seriously because they're a 15.5-point favorite this week. But if they beat Georgia
or dog this week,
I'm sorry, dog, be amazing. By the way, maybe
take that immediately.
Maybe that's an omen. But you know, if they beat Georgia and then win the SEC, yeah, they're going to be fucking in. Like I think they'll be in. So, I love this discussion. This is the last part of this rant. Is while I get mad, I actually enjoy this very much because it is pointless. And Ohio State fans, by the way, were really fucking mad at you and I on Monday when we did our show, and our final predictions for the playoff did not include Ohio State,
which
they did not like that.
Which was so funny because the show the next day that I did, I was like, we were doing predictions for what we thought the committee would do, and I was like, Ohio State deserves to be number 1. I was like, Georgia better not be 1. Like, that will make me so upset. But I love, like, to your point, I love playing this game because I also think it's worth having these conversations and these what ifs, and then let college football do the rest. Like, let it be what it is, where it's chaotic and beautiful. Like we said, committee never really been challenged on like multiple conference champions that are either multiple 1-loss or multiple undefeated that need to get in, and there's 5 out of 4 spots. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then the other elephant of it all is the Michigan stuff. I was very curious. I know that the committee's not supposed to let things affect their discussion, but this week there was the report that Connor Stallions was maybe scouting this season signals. So they have beat teams by a lot, not saying that it's like continued, but do you think that that was something that maybe was on their mind, that like, okay, we even have proof that it was going on this year? And it's kind of strange that like the games that you had tickets to this year, you didn't go to immediately when this report came out. Like, what's your vibe check on like the Michigan versus the committee situation, and do you think it affected where they were placed this week?
I think it's disingenuous for them to say it's an NCAA issue. when it's like the only thing college football is largely talking about until Dabo yells at somebody, which I can't wait to talk about.
I can't wait to talk about it either.
But I, of course, they're thinking about it. Like how they factor it in. I'm not like yet. I don't think it's reached a point yet where you do this. And like, by the way, by all accounts, Jim Harbaugh is getting a contract extension, and the reports that were stalling sounds like it's the opposite. Like there's a lot to unpack here. To say it's not factoring in the rankings, well, clearly right now they're ranked fine, right? But to say they're not factoring in the rankings, I think it has to be a discussion point, right? How could it not be a discussion?
Yeah. Well, and I think they're trying to keep themselves out of it by saying, okay, as long as they're bowl eligible. So they're saying if the NCAA thinks that they're doing this right now, they need to punish them now and say that they are not bowl eligible.
Correct.
That's basically what they are saying.
And they won't do that.
And they're not going to. And it's like because they need to do the entire investigation. And it's not going to happen before the national championship game's over. But it's just such a strange thing to think about when you look at Michigan. Like, look, I'm not saying that they don't have good players and they can't win and beat teams without just your basic knowledge of the other team that you get anyway. But I do think there's an advantage. And if they've been doing it this year, they've been beating teams by a lot. Like, it is interesting. Like, I'm not totally sold on the fact that, like, it hasn't given them an edge, and it, is unfair. Like, not everybody is doing it to the extent that Michigan is and breaking rules. And I'm curious if you think, I know they said that the contract thing, just for people who don't know, college football coaches' contracts go through, like, city council, basically. Yeah. And, like, it's a board, and they, like, approve it. So they get, like, because they're a state, it's a state, sorry, not city council, state. It's, like, a state board that, like, approves it. And it's pitched to them from the university. And that was removed. It doesn't mean that they're not, like, having contract extension conversations. They just removed the specific one that they had pitched. And we're probably making a new one. There's probably something in it that needed to change because of all of this stuff going on.
Well, remove, if possible, the NCAA situation. And you have the first NFL coach firing of the year already.
Yes. Wow.
Josh McDaniels, and an owner that would probably want to make a splash and hire a really good football coach. Jim Harbaugh, in my opinion, would be and should be the most coveted coach, NFL free agency, coaching free agency out there. Like, it blows my mind. I know he's a weirdo. I know maybe he's a tough guy to work with because of his personality. And I don't think it's shtick. I think it's just who he is. But he is an incredible football coach, and he has done it at both levels. So Michigan's in a really weird spot, by the way. They have this investigation going on that right now is more bark than bite. Like, we don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying this is not a big deal. It's very sensational and it's fun. But, like, when we talk about actual scandals relative to coaches, like, they're thinking probably, like, we could ride this one out. That's what I'd think. That they could rescind the offer, which was the report, I forget who put out there, USA Today, or I forget who it was, rescinding a contract offer that would have made him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten, which is a lot of money when you look at what Ryan Day is making. And then there was reports I saw throughout Twitter yesterday that they're like, hey, they're nearing a completion of this. It's a really strange time for Michigan. That is not an easy one, because if you don't do this, I wrote about it last week, I still think he's probably going to go to the NFL. After this year, okay. I still think. I think the interest in him has been very real. That I do know, and the interest in him in other places has been even realer. I'm just fascinated how this thing plays out. Oh, by the way, they have to play some football games, and they play Penn State next week, like the following week. Wild. And the shit with Connor and Stallions is amazing. Like, a fucking draw, like him showing up just at random. It's like, where's Waldo? With this guy, like, he's just showing up on sidelines. Is he wearing sunglasses that can record video? Is he shaving or not shaving? This is the perfect college football scandal.
Well, and it's crazy that, like, the internet is helping with it. So, like, there's people that were giving images, and, like, it's just very funny to me that this is all going down. But it's not funny in the sense that, like, if they are doing this, like, they should be punished for it. Like, you should not be able to do this if it's against the rules, and it is, in fact, against the rules.
It's still pretty funny. I mean, it like, just the depths. I agree. And they will be punished, by the way. And this is like, stealing signs is, this is another thing that people don't need to understand. Stealing signs is legal. You can do it. Sending this dude to the sideline with maybe video sunglasses is not.
Yeah.
I love this story, though. I never wanted to go away. Connor Stallions, I just wanted to keep showing up. I also love this story. Maybe even more. Dabo versus Tyler. There was a radio exchange the other night in which Dabo let this very obnoxious fan, just kind of rail into the university, into how much money he's making, and Dabo basically telling the guy to kiss my ass. Without saying
Yes.
that, but more or less. What was your... I have some thoughts, but when you hear this, we're seeing it on Twitter, and the quotes are amazing, and then I'm sure, listen to the interview, or like the pieces of it. What were your thoughts on this?
One, I think it was fair that he got irritated because it is frustrating when people are commenting on these things, but the extent of it was a little much. I forget what the exact phrase was that he used the next day when they asked him about it. He was like, he asked a something question and I went, I don't even know, but it was, I think for a coach that like we have seen be crowned the next like Nick Saban and have all of this stuff, like, win national championships and be in a situation of like, you are paid a ton and rightfully so, you did win those national championships, so great. But, like, it's okay for you to have a down year, but I get when someone's coming at you and he's like, you're not going to talk to me like I'm 12 years old, like I'm a grown man. I'm a man, I'm 40. Gave those vibes. But you know what? I don't mind this. I think if he wasn't irritated that they were losing and he was still doing the whole shtick of, like, he's happy all the time, I would be like, dude, your football team is bad this year. Like, what are you doing about it and why don't you care? And this shows me that he, like, genuinely cares.
I kind of love Dabo for this too. And we've been pretty hard on him.
Mm-hmm.
Dabo is this is who he is. So as you see coaches like Ryan Day and Nick Saban, like, the more success they have, they button it up. This is a dude who wears boat shoes and can't help himself. Like, that's, I don't want to say fallen into success, but like he has worked his ass off. His story is incredible. It's incredible. And then he got some generational QBs. He built some great rosters, and he won huge. And now he's not evolving with college football, and the criticisms are valid. Now, I love his answer. The answer that he gave about, maybe we should lose a few games to give people, like, that's a really bad answer that he said during the year because his team kind of sucks now. So I think there's two different discussions on Dabo. Is A, the state of Clemson and Dabo, not great. And B, here's a guy who couldn't help himself lead into a pissed off, by all accounts, annoying caller. And I kind of do appreciate Dabo for that. So and then they had like his laughing about it the next day. Like, this is the part of Dabo that is kind of fun because most coaches wouldn't even tolerate this shit. You see how Nick Saban handled this sometimes on his radio show. They never asked Nick Saban anything like this, right? They don't. And if they did, I encourage somebody to do so because it'd be amazing. But it's a wild exchange just to read, and then to actually hear it, it's somehow even better.
Yeah, no, I appreciated that he did that because honestly, like I said, it shows that he cares and that he's not just like, oh, things are gonna be fine, we're blah blah blah. Like, he was like, no, listen, like, don't say that about my team. Don't say that about me. You're not going to speak to me like that. So I appreciated it. We kind of skipped because we talked playoff first. We kind of skipped the kind of big news of the week, which is that Oklahoma lost. Which is just crazy. I didn't see that coming. But also, like, looking at this week, there's another game in the Big 12 that I think might be something. Spoiler. That may cause another team to not be in the playoff. Ha ha ha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But also we have Alabama LSU, which is just insane. But what did you think of Oklahoma losing to Kansas?
Weird game, weird week. That was like the really fucking North Carolina shitting its pants again. Like that was weird. But like so here's the general vibe. These teams with huge wins, Oklahoma, Washington, have season-altering wins, and then like they blow a tire and they can't play football anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now Washington has won. It is very strange though. It's very, very strange. Like in sequence, they're like, and we suck, break.
Yeah.
And so now Kansas is good. Let's I'll temper this a little bit. Kansas is a really good football program. Lance Leopold's amazing. This is an amazing. It's kind of cool that we could talk about Oklahoma sucking and not holy shit Kansas. Shows how far Kansas has come in about a year and a half. That dude deserves another raise, and he's going to be really, really rich. Michigan State, you should go hire this guy if you can. Give him $9 million a year. But I do think for Oklahoma, back to the playoff, back to all these other pieces, like, so how real was that win? Is Texas not as good as we thought? Which is kind of what I think you're alluding to in terms of what we talk about next week. And what have we been seeing? And I was surprised by it. I thought it would be close. And by the way, Kansas is doing this with a backup quarterback, albeit a very capable one. But like this was wild. That was a really, I won't say I was shocked by this. By the game, I think the spread was about 7 points. I was surprised though.
Yeah, it's strange to me that the committee has Texas in front of Oklahoma with that loss, and Kansas is ranked. I understand that Texas did beat Alabama.
That's why.
And they kept Alabama behind them. Even like it just, and then I go, why is Penn State at 11? They lost to the number one team in the country. What in the actual F? Besides the fact that Texas and Alabama have like harder strengths of schedule, I don't think Oklahoma's strength of schedule is better than Penn State's. So I don't understand. And Ole Miss lost to a team that's lower in the rankings than they are.
Well,
or no, they beat LSU. They lost to Alabama. But they lost to a team that's also ranked in the top 25. But, so I get that, but like I just don't understand why that's ranked higher than Kansas.
Yeah, the Indiana game did not help. That's another team, by the way, that had that just has been hugely hungover.
But they won. But look at you. They didn't move Washington out of that top spot.
It's hard. It's really funny you mentioned that too, because like, where do they go? Like you've got the Oregon head-to-head win right now, and so it's fun. You're right, but like where? Like when Oklahoma lost, I didn't drop them terribly far. I think I dropped them in my top 25, like 2 spots.
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 spots, because okay, you know, like So you get to this point of the year too, where it's like the gaps between the teams becomes a little wider, and so how you react to them, depending on who they play or lose to or win, also changes. But I agree, Oklahoma's a perplexing team. And oh, by the way, to your point about looking ahead, Oklahoma and Texas got some shit this week that could really screw things up for them.
Yeah,
both of them.
I think 1 through 11 in the college football playoff, it's like anybody's opportunity. Like I don't think that there's that big of a gap with what's already transpired in terms of like head-to-head matchups between that group and what they have going forward.
I want to transition it to this week. We'll get into our bets, and this is actually going to be a somewhat abbreviated pod. You just literally got home from New York like 7 seconds ago. I have to go to a birthday party at Chick-fil-A. It's like
I'm so glad you said that.
A real thing that's going to happen. Like, like Team Chick-fil-A, by the way. So let's talk about this week. So I'm going to say, we'll get to locks. This is one of the most interesting weeks of point spreads I can ever remember. And I'm not even being hyperbole. You know, when I tell you I don't love this card, I just finished my locks of the week. It's one of the more fascinating weeks, and I'm not even talking about games I picked. Alabama LSU that is not a lock of the week for me. Is an incredibly hard game. Alabama's a 3-point favorite. The total in this one is 60.5. I don't know if this is a game you want to pick in locks or not, but I can start
I'm staying
just by
far
saying,
away from that in locks. But
okay, all right, yeah, me too. Like Jaden Daniels might do this goddamn thing, and Jalen Milroe is very capable. But how weird is it to see Alabama at home against a 2-loss team as only a 3-point favorite? It's a little
very
strange.
But it's the new version.
It's
It's
a
the
little
new version
strange.
of this Alabama team that we're seeing this year.
Which is fun, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun for Alabama fans, but it's fun for me. The 2 Big 12 games. I guess, what are your thoughts on the Alabama game? Do you have thoughts? Because I'm excited, and I'm also a little bit perplexed by that game.
I mean, it's whoever's secondary can play better. Whoever can get to and disrupt the other team's quarterback. Like, it's literally all about their defenses disrupting those offenses, because you can't give up big plays to LSU. They're going to score a bunch of points, but they also have to play defense. Their secondary has not been good this year. So, it's going to come down to that. And I think Alabama, as of late, has been a little bit more of a better disciplined team, but you just never know. With what we've seen earlier in the season, they've progressively gotten better, which is good. But that offense is electric. It's the best in the country.
The other game of note in the SEC, also not by locks. You're going to hate my fucking picks, by the way. Everyone's going to hate it, not just you. It's a disgusting lineup that I'm so excited about. Okay. Georgia versus Missouri. This is Georgia's first true test, I guess, if you want to call it that. No knock on Missouri. The point spread is 15. Missouri's been really good this year, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri's been exciting. They can score. In theory, they could offensively give Georgia some problems, who has regressed a little bit. I got into the Georgia defensive metrics because I'm writing about Georgia this week, and just they're not the same team they were 2 years ago. They're without their best player. If Georgia is vulnerable, now would be the time. But do you think Georgia is vulnerable?
Not particularly. I don't think they're going to be vulnerable until we get to the SEC championship game, because whether it be Alabama or LSU or Ole Miss, I think any of those teams will be able to put up a fight against them. But I don't know about the rest of the SEC and what they have in front of them. Like, everyone's like, oh, Tennessee. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think Georgia gets tested until championship time.
Kind of inclined to think that Georgia's going to kick the living shit out of Missouri.
Yeah, to prove a point.
This could be like Kentucky 2.0, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't feel great about it. Big 12. I don't have either of these games in my picks either. So Oklahoma State, Kansas State versus Texas. Maybe you have them in locks.
I have Kansas State and Texas in my locks.
Okay, so we'll leave that one alone. And I think I know where you're going. But whatever. Oklahoma State is a perplexing football game in my eyes. Oklahoma, I want to see what the point spread is. I think it was 5. It is 6. So Oklahoma State at home, 6-point dog. Oh, by the way, for those who celebrate Bedlam, and you should, this could be our last Bedlam. That's kind of shitty. I know Oklahoma's won like 80% of the games in the rivalry. It still annoys me because I love this rivalry. It's one of my guilty pleasure college football rivalries. So part of me thinks Oklahoma State, like, we keep expecting these teams to not suck, and then they just keep sucking. Part of me expects Oklahoma State to give them a game.
Interesting.
But I'm not betting that.
I mean, I can see it after what we saw against UCF, and then you lose to Kansas. I mean, it makes sense.
Any other, let's see. God, I have a lot of these games in my picks. Yeah, I've got that. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know. We can get into locks of the week, picks and pints, whatever we're calling it. By the way, shout out Municipal. I got a lot of compliments on my shirt today.
Very
Always get a
nice.
lot of compliments, especially at my kids' soccer games, on my shirts. Also wearing my Municipal pants. I'm going to save myself the potential hamstring injury of lifting them up, even though would make for great content. I'm not going to do that. Shoes
I
are
mean,
out.
kind
And
of
if you want
funny.
to look like us, municipal.com, no punch 20. I'm amazed. I was showing my parents in town this week. I was showing them the submissions of game day upsets. For those who don't know, get on Twitter and pick your favorite upsets. You can win Municipal gear. There are so many submissions. Responding to people via GIF is becoming harder and harder because I'm running, the creative juices are not as quite as good, especially when I'm trying to focus on my kids' soccer games. But we will do game day upsets again. Join us on Twitter and check out Municipal because their stuff is amazing. All right. Locks of the week, picks and pints. First and foremost, Zombie Dust, one of my favorite IPAs. Zombie Dust, Three Floyds, local beer. It is Halloween after all. I do have a take on the next holiday that I want to share with you in our random shit if we ever get there. Do you want me to start with my first lock? Again, you're gonna hate. This is a disgusting batch, but I'm super excited to go through them. I will start Clemson +3 versus Notre Dame. Their kids out there, there's going to be a lot of games this week that your friends tell you can't lose. And this is one of them. Clemson is a disgusting football program right now. Notre Dame is ranked. They have Sam Hartman. Don't fall for the fucking cheese here. Notre Dame has barely played on the road, at all. And Clemson's going to ugly this game up, and Dabo's going to give his friend Tyler something to celebrate. Clemson covers, Clemson wins.
Wow.
And just wait. There's a slew of these.
This is, I feel like this is really gross betting on my end as well. But we'll start with the fun one.
What is your first look? Okay.
Let's do Kansas State +4 versus Texas.
I do think this is a problem game for Texas.
It is.
I really do. As one of their supporters, I can't say I feel great about this one. Another disgusting bet. Lock of the number 2. It's easy for me to say. Locks of the week, number 2. I'm trying to make sure the line is still appropriate. Iowa State -2.5 versus Kansas. Oh my God. Hangover city. Kansas coming off a huge win. Iowa State playing well. They're playing well. This is a problem for Kansas. Ames is a place that has what?
I'm on the opposite side of this.
Fair enough. So I get it. This is a disgusting pick from a disgusting person and me. I don't feel like we've had many head-to-heads lately.
No. But I feel good about this Kansas pick.
Love Iowa State. I can't believe I'm staying. I do. Another disgusting one, and I got burned by this last week. Michigan State +3 versus Purdue. I want to make sure it's still +3. It is +3. Or Michigan State +3 versus Nebraska.
I was like, Purdue, please.
I picked Purdue last week against Nebraska, and it was fucking bad. Neighbor Jason, I'm rooting for Nebraska. In fact, there's very few national people that have rooted as hard for Nebraska as I have. Michigan State is terrible. Nebraska's won 5 of 6 games. This is, a wild point spread. This is a super weird week. Michigan State +3 at home. They win outright.
Okay. I have a game that I'm taking 2 separate bets in that I feel pretty great about. Okay. I'm going to take Air Force to cover the 18.5 versus Army.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I'm going to take the over 31.5, which is gross. If you watch these football teams play, you know that betting an over in this game is kind of ridiculous. But 31.5 points, I think Air Force can score that by themselves.
It's very Iowa-esque, 31.5.
Yeah. I'm in.
I actually like this. I actually like both of these. I'm really not used to seeing that type of total unless Kirk Ferentz is not coaching. We didn't even talk about Brian.
I know. I was
Ferentz,
gonna say I was gonna bring that up in random shit if you wanted to talk about Iowa, because we do it every week.
We can talk about it briefly. I'm just so sad by them. But okay, USC.
What's your last?
Well, I got two more, I guess. USC, both in the Pac-12. And by the way, your Arizona team won me money last week. They're good. They're legit.
Guess who has them this
USC
week?
Oh, I like it. But USC plus 3.5 versus Washington, the number 6 ranked team in the college football playoff rankings, is only a 3.5-point dog to. Isn't this line? It's actually 3 now. So people are backing USC. USC barely beat Cal. They've barely beat everybody. And this is where the odds makers think Washington is. Again, Michael Penix, have him to win the Heisman. I actually really love Washington and all they stand for in terms of offense and fun. I just call it as I see it. I think USC gets back on track. The total in this game, by the way, is 76.5. It's a massive total.
Holy smokes.
It's a massive total. I think that's the biggest we've seen all year. I don't know what to do with that. I actually probably would bet the over, even though that's a little outrageous.
Really? I feel like Washington's offense hasn't been that great the last 2 games.
It's a tough one. I almost just choked on beer, by the way.
We're really struggling today, guys.
It is. What else is new? So, all right, and then I've got one more, but go ahead. Do you have one more, or are you done?
I'm taking the Arizona Wildcats plus
Go
3 minus versus UCLA. So, let's go. Minus UCLA.
Good.
Oh, boy.
Minus UCLA. I would say this is a departure. My last one is Utah minus 11 versus Arizona State. I am very appreciative of what Arizona State has done. They are a scrappy football team. Utah just got their absolute doors beat in at home. This is still a very tough place to play when you're not playing Oregon. I think Utah is going to win this game by 20 points. I think it's a very comfortable win for Utah. So there you have it. I
agree.
Brian Ferentz.
Yes.
So it is very sad that an interim AD at Iowa had to step in and be the voice of reason for this. And I'm happy this is coming to an end. I'm very curious to see if Kirk Ferentz is done. Because he was non-committal, which doesn't tell me much. I think he'll be back. I think Kirk Ferentz will be back. I don't think he wants to. I don't see it go out like this. They're having a decent year despite their offense being a disgusting pile of shit. It's about time. Just get. But time. Why do that? Why have him stay? This has just been it will be a charade until the very end, and so it shall be. But I feel bad for Brian Ferentz. I do. Look, man, it's not like he's not trying to win. I don't even blame him on this. This is his dad. This is nepotism at its finest. So I don't like that Iowa had to be dragged into this. Something that would be a very easy decision in so many other places, every other school in the country.
No, I agree.
But I'm at peace with it.
I agree. Any other football things before we pivot to random shit?
I love football. No. What? No, I wrote this. My only other. I love football. I do. I really love football. I'm getting sad when
before we go to random shit. I love football. I'm
getting sad when I look at schedules.
I love Lamb.
When I look at schedules and there's only 4 games left, I get a little sad. I get a little sad. And here's my other thing. I wrote this in Locks of the Week. Folks, check the weather report. It snowed here yesterday, an inch and a half.
Yeah, can we talk about that, how it snowed? And it's happened before. It was 2 years ago, right, that it snowed on Halloween? It's funny that I know that now. We've been doing this so long that I know that it snowed on Halloween for your kids.
Absolutely outrageous. But no, football stuff, I love football. That's the end. Random shit. Halloween was fun, minus the cold, minus the snow. But I more importantly want to talk about, actually my fireplace almost blew up. It was a weird day. Everything's fine, but it was kind of a weird day.
What?
Other than the snow and the fireplace almost blowing up. Yeah, we have a gas fireplace, and like, I was on the phone with you. If I sounded disconnected, I didn't tell you this. So I'm on the phone with you. I'm just saying, hey, good luck on the show, right? That was the extent of the phone call. As we're wrapping up, I hear a boom, and I can feel the house kind of shake. And then literally as I'm answering, my middle son is yelling for me. Like, Dad! I'm like, oh God, what am I walking up? And like our fireplace, something happened where it sparked and literally like shook many of the pieces off the wall. Everybody's fine, but it was a little freaky, a little unnerving. So if I sounded like I wasn't paying attention to you before like one of the biggest professional moments, it's kind of true. Like, it's kind of true. I hear a boom and then a Dad. So,
first of all, that's so funny. That's almost as fun. I mean, remember a couple weeks ago when I lit my oven on fire? It sounds like we just have very similar things, but very funny that was the moment that happened. Because I didn't pick up on that really at all. Because also we like always have things going on. So like you and I both are kind of spacey when we're on the phone with each other. So I did not take any offense to that. But good news is I get you back with me next week.
Yes.
So next week we go to New York for this show, and I'm very, very excited that you will be in studio with me doing it. It'll be great.
I'm pumped. I am pumped. Obviously, Jersey is this is my origins, right? I've been out in Chicago a long time, so I love going back to New York too.
And we've never done New York together.
No, I know you did it with our good friend Michael Felder. I spent a lot of time in New York with Felder. It's been a while, so and I saw, by the way, you saw Lefko too.
Yes, Adam did. Adam Lefko. Yeah, it was very. It was a very weird moment for those that have followed BR for a long time. I mean, Lefko's been there forever. I've been there almost 9 years. You were there before even I started. Yeah. Like, and Felder was there with you originally, and so it was a very funny moment because there was a like a freelance makeup artist in the hair and makeup room, and the three of us were just like, hey, oh my God, good to see you, like talking and hanging out. And like we have our own green rooms to go to, but we were sitting in that room just like catching up and stuff because Lefko's about to be a dad and Felder has a daughter, and it was just kind of weird. And he was like, guys, I didn't know this was such a big deal and a big production that we're doing here with this. So it was really cool to see everybody, and it felt very, very surreal and kind of like nostalgic in a way for the old days of getting the band back together. But yes, I'm looking forward to going to New York and doing the show again. If you didn't watch this week, definitely watch on Max. Next week, it'll be in the BR app as well. It's on Tuesday, immediately when the college football playoff rankings are supposed to be coming out at 7 Eastern. So, yeah, coming out with this. And
I'm excited.
Yeah, maybe if you post about watching it, we'll send you some free stuff. Who knows?
That's even better. I love it. Is there any other? So Halloween was great.
Yes.
I love Halloween. But you and I aligned on Thanksgiving being a fucking monstrous holiday. And I just want you to know I'm putting my Christmas lights up on Friday.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for telling me. And you knew that would make me happy. You waited on that. Yeah, you knew that piece of information would make me happy. By the way, Merry Christmas, everyone. It's November 1st. I'm so excited. I'm surprised I didn't listen to Christmas music on the plane home today because I love Christmas so much, and I'm going to Disneyland for Thanksgiving, so I'm basically skipping it.
No, I put this on Twitter, and like everyone's just like, no. What a bunch of sad ass motherfuckers they are. Like, yeah, dude, like first off, like, who says no? Or like, whatever, like, no way, man. Like, ew. It's like, shut the fuck up. But first and foremost, like, give yourself something to lean into. It's cold here, okay, right? My car was frozen shut today. Okay, if it's not for that, like, because January ain't no peach, right? So like, I need motivation.
Yes.
And the holidays, I got young kids too. It's like they're ready.
They're ready.
So
it just brings so much joy. That's why I love it, because I love cheesiness and like sappiness and like warm and cozy. And I live in California, but still, it's 78 degrees today.
What's funny too, so I work, obviously, otherwise, like I'm work for Golden Tee. The holidays are huge for people buying games for the homes.
Yeah.
I am becoming like, embrace the holidays because I think that's going to, like, sales will come Like me putting in my
Yes.
Christmas lights, somebody's like, you know what? I need a golden tea machine for my basement. That's how I think in my head. That's probably not how that person is thinking, but I am through and through, regardless of shilling corporately. Like, I love this time of year. This
Me
is
too.
football. Weather isn't normally too shitty. Christmas beers are delightful. We'll get those into the pod.
And buddy, I mean, the spirits are going to be high in New York.
Spirits are going to be high.
So
We may go to a football game. If we don't go to a football game, we can watch it at a New York bar, which is, I don't know. One could argue maybe a better experience. Like
warmer
in terms
experience
of
for sure.
warmer experience and probably up my alley. So yeah, I'm pumped. But we will
Oh,
I guess yes.
I will note on that front, if I had to guess, I'm going to say let's aim for pod
Yeah, probably a
publish
day later.
on Friday. Yeah, for next week. Just
Yeah.
with travel and all of that. Cross country does quite a number on you, as I can attest to. I think, the college days of being able to like run on very little sleep
I know.
have far passed for me now, and I'm like, I need to go to bed. So yes, we will have an episode next week, but we will record Thursday and have it published Friday for you guys.
And if you want essentially a preview of the pod, go check out the Bleacher Report app, because we will be there for an hour and it will be
a whole hour.
Fantastic. I don't know though. That's easy. You and I could fill up that in there are some days when we do our AP poll top 25. We're at like team 9 and we're 20 minutes in.
We're like, oh shit, we got to keep moving.
We got to move.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next time you see us, we'll be on TV or tablets or other assorted things you get your media on. Me, I'm a TV guy. For Paige, I am Adam. We will talk to you guys soon.